Hey, how's it going? It's Miguel, and welcome. Good morning. Today is what is it? The 30th of October, 2018, and I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling energetic. Today is a Monday, and it's in the morning. It's about 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm preparing to go to work, and thought I'd drop you a line, Amster, and see how you were doing. I actually, right now, I'm doing fantastic. So many amazing things going on right now. It is pretty cool. Of course, I'm going to be going to that concert down in Los Angeles at the Greek Theater tomorrow. So I'm getting all set and ready to do that. I almost bought a parking permit for that event this morning at like 5 in the morning, and then I thought to myself, "Oh, wait a second, let's just hold off." I see. Here's the thing: I try to make all my decisions within a certain period of time. Like, for example, I don't make any serious decisions after 10 o'clock p.m. I just don't. And I don't make any serious decisions before 6 o'clock a.m. And it's kind of interesting that I've even got these kind of rules that I live by. I think it has to do with this idea that my thinking might be degraded somehow outside a certain range of time, like reasonable daytime decision making time. You know, and the thing is true. I don't make purchasing decisions. If it's after 10 o'clock p.m. It's just a little rule I've invented for myself. And I think it just has to do with my brain. you know, the thing about the human brain is that outside of business hours, it can be a little wacky. And, you know, sometimes, well, in an effort to sort of deal with that problem, I basically only make decisions within a certain span of time that are, reasonably important, like purchases and texting and phoning and stuff like that. It's just, I think it's just a part of managing your own mind, right? Managing your own brain. I gave myself a little gift yesterday. I picked up a Keurig coffee maker. Yeah. Now, I've had coffee makers in the past. I've had drip coffee makers, and I've used them before. And, I've enjoyed them to some extent, but they were kind of a lot of work. There's the filter, and then there's the grinding, and then there's the buying of the beans, and then the preserving of the beans, which apparently is this big deal, right? You put the beans in the freezer and in a plastic bag or something like that. I forget how I used to do it. But there were always issues. And I figured that as a gift, I would at least try this Keurig coffee maker. And I know it's got a lot of, there's pros and then cons to using the Keurig. And, the whole K-cup thing, and also the expense related to the coffee making, and then there's like the environmental impact, right? All the plastic and all the coffee grounds. I don't know. I was thinking to myself how this particular coffee maker, I think I call it a fad. It is relatively persistent, and I was questioning myself inside the store, thinking about, well, maybe I just get a regular coffee maker and have a lot more flexibility, have a lot less expensive coffee. But then I was thinking, man, this trend is really persistent. I mean, I was just at the grocery store, and in fact, I was at the grocery store, and I was noticing that in the hallway, in the aisle related to tea and coffee, that these Keurig K cups were really taking up maybe one half to three quarters of the aisle. And I thought to myself, wow, these grocers know what's up. They know what people want to buy. And that all these K cups are up on the aisle tells me something, that there is something persistent about this K cup technology, and there's something valuable that people are drawing from it, from these machines. And I figured I'd give it a try. And so far I liked it. I had 2 cups of coffee last night and I really enjoyed them. And so I'm very pleased with the purchase. Kind of surprised. I kind of didn't think that I'd like it very much, but I'm enjoying it. And I think I might be willing to pay a little extra money so that I can have coffee that's relatively decent. Now, you may know that before I was using the Keurig, I was pretty much just using coffee crystals. A teaspoon of coffee crystals in a cup where water has been heated up in the microwave. And that's been fine. But I do admit that sometimes the coffee isn't as enjoyable as I'd like it to be. That's true. And you know what? Essentially, my taste buds have adapted to eating coffee crystals. And I'm fine with coffee crystals. There are some brands of coffee crystals that are better than others, and ones that I enjoy. And, I've enjoyed it as long as I have, and I thought it was time for a change. And so far, I'm happy with the change. I'm really glad I picked up the Keurig. So I'm kind of interested to see how other teas and drinks, hot drinks. I'm interested to see how other teas and hot drinks how I can sample those. And so I'm curious about that. And we'll see how my Keurig adventure goes, right? So let's see. I went for a long walk yesterday. And for me, that's about 2 hours. And actually, that's not a long walk. That's just a regular walk. And I was so pleased to start using my headphones. I've got some wireless headphones that I use. And it sure does make that 2-hour exercise of walking, that whole event and adventure, happen a lot smoother and more enjoyably. So I got to listen to an audiobook, an audiobook related to, I think it was a business related audiobook related to networking, which I really enjoyed. Now, the book wasn't the best, highest quality book I've ever read, but let me tell you, it sure was enjoyable compared to not having my mind stimulated by anything while I was walking for 2 hours. And here's the thing, it was kind of nighttime, and so there wasn't much to see because the sun was going down and everything was graying out or blacking out, because it was nighttime, basically. And so there wasn't much to watch. So I'm really glad that I had the audiobook. And it was nice to listen to that for a while I was exercising. So, that gets me to thinking about something that has been on my mind lately. And I'll let you in on this idea. I have been, and I've mentioned this in previous videos, it has to do with this dichotomy between thinking and acting. And of course, I'm an advocate for mental health and the reduction of emotional pain. And it occurred to me, and it's quite reasonable and obvious, that really difficult emotions, painful emotions, result from thoughts, right? There are thoughts that somehow, through connotations and associations, these thoughts create emotional pain. which I've identified in the past as really probably mostly being tension, muscle tension. And so I'm thinking about figuring out a way to relieve the muscle tension brought about by these very challenging thoughts. And I'm recognizing that it's behavior which can be the salve that can soothe the emotional pain. And, one of the clues that has sort of cued me in onto this is this idea that it's really challenging. Once a meaning is set in place about your external reality, it's really hard to change it. Hey, I didn't create the brain. I don't quite understand it. Now, I also recognize that in order to change meaning, all it takes is a decision. But sometimes it's difficult. I talk about the parallel processes of the mind and how you can hold two contradictory thoughts at the same time, two divergent emotions, two separate emotions, like you can feel anger and sadness at the same time. And I've talked about how when it comes to a certain perspective, people can hold multiple perspectives at the same time. And so it's very rarely the case that you ever eliminate meanings that are painful. You're always sort of holding that meaning that's painful in a stack, right? It's essentially a stack of thoughts and a stack of meaning surrounding a certain external event. And that means that emotional pain is kind of hard to deal with because you're basically dealing with a stack, right? A sandwich of thoughts. And you're just changing the emphasis of your attention from one layer to another. Well, what if you were to sort of ignore the thinking related to these thoughts and focus more on thinking related to behavior and action? So this is the bright idea. The bright idea is this recognition that when it comes to moving our bodies, that takes a lot of processing power. So much processing power. And to move our bodies in an effective way, it takes planning, it takes thoughtfulness. There's an element of logic. There's like a present, like what behavior takes place after the next behavior. And so there's this string of behaviors as you coordinate your way through your day. And the question for me is, that takes a lot of focus. And so does thinking about this sandwich of thoughts, this stack of layered thoughts. So what if, and remember, I'm recognizing that it's a lot of mind management and thought management is about managing your attention, right? It's about emphasis. And so what I'm talking about now is de-emphasizing the layered thinking and emphasizing behavioral approaches to reducing emotional pain. And so wow, this for me, this is the bright idea. And I'm making I'm linking this idea to other ideas that I've had in the past, and that is, there's this idea of the sort of the clumsy professor, or I'm not saying it right. The clumsy scientist, the person who's always in his mind, right? He's not focusing on his external reality, how to plan out his movements in space and time. He's focused on his thoughts, right? Concepts that he's developing, distinctions that he's making. And so he's not the clumsy scientist is not focused on present moment reality and present moment behavior. So my idea is to rectify that. In fact, I recognize that I myself am very much a clumsy scientist. I know there's a better phrase for it than the phrase I'm using. I just can't remember it right now. But I've spent many years being a clumsy scientist, spending more time in my head than in my body. And I think I'm going to make a change. I am going to make a change. And what I'm finding already is these small changes that I'm making about focusing on my behavior and bringing more thought, more focus, more concentration to how I move my body through space and time is having an effect. It is reducing the levels of emotional pain. And I think that my levels of emotional pain are essentially average for any regular person. And to get even a little bit of relief, 10%, 20%, as I'm focusing on my behavior, I think is significant and could be helpful to a lot of people. And so I'm pretty excited about this idea now. And I'm thinking about managing behavior. And one of the ideas that's come to mind recently is how I can manage behavior and act according to my values in ways that are methodical and focused. And so this idea of productivity has come to mind. And I've actually been involved and interested in productivity for a long, long time. So I myself am a list maker, a to-do list maker. I'm a note taker. And so I've got my notebooks, I've got my pens that are always with me. And I also use a number of apps to help me manage my day using productivity techniques. I've spoken in the past to you about David Allen, Getting Things Done, who I think of as this center of the productivity universe. But there are other techniques that I use, like Pomodoro method and swallow the frog and things like that. These are techniques that people use to focus on helping them be more productive. And I use Google Keep, which is an app. And it's also some software. You can get a Chrome extension on your internet browser to link your laptop or desktop to your smartphone. And so you can keep your to-do lists updated everywhere you go, right? Because they're updated in the cloud. So I'm excited about this new idea. This new idea of focus on behavior, using productivity techniques to steer my behavior in ways that are consistent with my values. And there's also another recognition that sort of folds into this idea. And I touched on it a moment ago. I don't think I fully explored it. And that was this idea that once you've created a meaning, it's fixed, right? It becomes part of the layered thought, the layered sandwich of one's thoughts. And it's hard to change. But behavior is very easy to change. In fact, I have exquisite control of my behavior. It is exquisite. For example, I can run on the treadmill, or I can bicycle, or I can go roller skating. I can dress myself. And there are a lot of things that I can do. I can go dancing. And, as I move about my day, I've got control of my fingers. Think about this exquisite control that's available to me. And I'm contrasting that with the control I have over my thoughts, which I'm arguing is rather limited. So, wow, that's what makes this whole idea so exciting. The idea is about having control. It's about reduction of emotional pain. And it's about being more productive and acting more in accordance with my values and meeting my needs. So, wow, to me, this is really exciting. So I'm pretty excited about it. I'm happy to be able to share it with you. I'm kind of interested in what you might think about this idea. I know these ideas, by the way, I recognize are very subtle. These are not wild-eyed ideas that are, that are going to take over the world. Everybody basically kind of knows this information. Like I said earlier, sometimes thinking is a matter of emphasis. And I guess as I've been growing older, my thoughts have become more focused and, how should I say, distinctions that are more subtle, nuanced. Yeah, this is a more nuanced understanding. And here's the thing. I've read so much about psychology that I don't necessarily need to read about a brand new breakthrough. I've got enough. I know enough about human behavior and thoughts to at least sort of walk my own way on my own path. I think, and even what's more exciting is combining this idea of using imagery with a focus on behavior. These are not ideas that haven't ever been explored before. But for me, they're a little bit groundbreaking because they represent new understandings, right? New perspectives and a different emphasis, right? And I'm also getting good results, rapid results. So anyway, I'm pretty excited about this turn of events, these new realizations that I'm having. And they probably seem trivial to you, and that's perfectly okay. But somehow, for me, they promote more energy. So I'm excited about them. Anyway, let me get back to our regular routine, and let's talk a little bit about Mary McKenzie and what she has to say in her book, Peaceable Living, or Peaceful Living. Now, today's October 29th, and so let's get started. Oh, wait, no, it's not. Today's the 30th. Oh, no, today's the 29th. Okay. Wow, look at this. This is a point that's touching on what we just had a discussion about. So, October 29th, and it is a Monday. And this is a quotation by Maxine Kumin. When Sleeping Beauty wakes up, she's almost 50 years old. Sometimes I'm not quite sure where these quotes come from and what her points are, what Mary McKenzie's points are about these quotes, but let's find out. The subtitle of her comments is Staying Connected to Our Bodies. I spent much of my life disconnected from my body. Okay. This is a very Mary McKenzie-ish type phrase. The phrase begins like this. This is the pattern I'm noticing. She makes a bold, overgeneralized statement about the past and how bad the past was. And then how, once she's found MVC, how great the present is. All right, I'll go with it. So let's hear what she has to say. I spent much of my life disconnected from my body. It gives me the sense that Mary McKenzie must have been a really, really sort of sad, upset, angry problem. Must have had lots of problems when she was younger. In order to appreciate MVC, you don't necessarily have to have a troubled past. Anyway, so she says that I spent much of my life disconnected from my body. This meant that I wouldn't notice that I was coming down with an illness until it hit me hard. I wouldn't have an injury checked by a doctor until it had become severe enough to cause pain. Naturally. For years, I wished that I didn't have this body. I didn't like the way it looked or functioned, so I ignored its needs. Frankly, I wanted someone else to deal with it. Then I began to realize how much I neglected my physical self, and in doing so, neglected me. No one else was going to take care of my body. It was my job. When we don't take care of our physical selves through nurturing, food, exercise, and healthcare, we do violence to ourselves, and we do not live peacefully. Consider spending each day, to connect with your body, empathize with areas of your body that feel poorly, and listen to what they need to be healthy and comfortable. We can meet all our needs and still treat our bodies with loving, nurturing care. And the thought for the day is connect with your body's unmet needs today. Now, actually, this is a pretty good idea. I kind of like the idea of thinking of personifying your body parts. That's kind of an interesting take. It sounds like an interesting strategy. It is an imaginary strategy, right? Body parts don't have personalities. But I guess in some way you could imagine that they have needs. Why not? Yeah, and in fact, I think that's a very reasonable thing to think about. So I like this idea of sort of trying to understand the needs of your body parts. And so I'm an advocate of it. Thumbs up for Miguel. That's a good way of thinking about it, I suppose. Yeah. Then I began to realize how much I neglected my physical self, and in doing so neglected me. No one was going to take care of my body. It was my job. So yeah. What I'm noticing in today's culture is this emphasis on self-care. And I'm really pleased about it. It's really important. I think a lot of people need to focus on self-care. There's a lot of unnecessary suffering that goes on in the world. Physical suffering. I'm talking about pain. Because people are not adequately focused on self-care. That is, care for their physical body. I think the baby boomer generation is like this. I have a feeling that they don't really go to the doctor that often. And they certainly don't take care of their bodies that much, with obesity rates hovering around 40, 50, maybe even 60% of the population. They really need, particularly baby boomers, need this self-care message. And I'd argue that everyone needs this self-care message. Gen Xers need it, millennials need it, Gen Y, Gen Z, they all need this self-care message. This is an important message. It's about taking responsibility for your body, right? Focusing on what your body needs and managing it well. And thankfully, it took me many years to sort of recognize the importance of self-care, but now that I have it, I'm glad for it. And here's the thing too, something I'm also appreciating about myself is that my approach to self-care is very much evidence-based, right? Clinical studies are what drive my strategies for self-care. It's very easy to use an entirely different method for self-care, and that is use intuition as a self-care method. And it sounds like it might be sort of the correct way to go about things, using your intuition, but it's really easy for intuition to go off track. I've seen intuition just go off the rails. People have this idea about their bodies that is like, I don't know. It's, for example, here is an example of when intuition about your body goes off the rails. Candy bars. There are people who crave candy bars, and when they desire a candy bar, a person might interpret that desire as your body's need for a candy bar. But let me suggest that your body isn't really needing the candy bar. So even if it feels true, right, that your body needs a candy bar in the moment, or it needs that plate of spaghetti pasta in the moment, or it needs the pumpkin pie, right? Let me suggest that this may be a misinterpretation of your fundamental drives and habits. you know, yeah. In fact, I think some people think like, oh, I've got a really strong focus on lasagna, right? And they're eating lots of lasagna. And then they imagine, what could my body be wanting? Oh, maybe it wants the cheese, right? And, and then they start, oh, maybe my body needs calcium, right? That's why I'm eating so much lasagna. Oh, my body must be craving calcium right now. So maybe I'll go out and take some calcium pills. I'm afraid that's probably a mistake. That kind of thinking, that kind of intuitive thinking is not necessarily more correct than evidence-based methods. Now, I understand it's not easy to get evidence-based information that's relevant to you in the moment. But I think it's important not to intuit too much about your body. I was mentioning, I think just yesterday, that the human body is a chemical reaction. It's a set of millions of chemical reactions taking place. Human beings are basically giant chemistry experiments. And let me tell you, if I was in my chemistry class and I began to use my intuition to manage and monitor my chemistry experiments, I could tell you real quick that things will go sour. things will probably disintegrate pretty quickly if I'm ever in a chemistry lab using my intuition to decide what to do next. So, anyway. So let's see, what else is new? I'm going to move on to another subject. I think I've had enough of that one. So I've got my Kindle here, and there's a book on it that's got a list of questions, and I'm going to be trying to answer them. And the reason is because I'd like you to get to know me a little bit better, Em. I'd like you to know who I am and what I'm interested in and what my life is like, and what better way than to field 1,000 questions, right? At least this will get us started, right? Maybe there will be something in this question and answer session that piques your interest. Maybe you'd like to know more about a part of my history or part of my experience or something about my preferences. Maybe you'll find commonalities. Maybe there are ideas or traits that we have in common that you would be interested in exploring and finding out more about. So anyway, that's the reason I'm doing that. That's my purpose. So question number 152. Do you know how to skate? And my answer is yes. I do know how to skate. Now, I've skated a long time, and I used to skate a lot more than I used to. Or I used to skate a lot more than I do now. I remember I grew up in Taos, New Mexico, and one of my most enjoyable memories is roller skating with my brothers at the local roller rink in Taos. And there we would just, it was, I think, near a movie theater. And we would go skating, and I remember we would get like Twizzlers, right? Like red laces, licorice, and other candies at the snack bar. And then we would go, and I would just have so much fun roller skating. And I'd like to go roller skating with you. I think I've been roller skating with you maybe once or twice, but I'd like to go roller skating with you again. And Yeah, that sounds like fun. And there's even a roller rink in Santa Maria. I think I would have to rent some skates. I don't happen to have any roller skates right now. Um, but anyway, I'd like to get. I would be open to going roller skating with you. And in fact, I'd welcome that. I think that would be a whole heck of a lot of fun. Now, I've actually got some roller blades. Roller blades are a kind of roller skate, but I actually find them very uncomfortable to wear. Really uncomfortable. Like, so uncomfortable that my ankles start hurting after just, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes in the rollerblades. So I'm really not sure what that's about. I'm also finding myself pretty unstable on the rollerblades, which is kind of odd. I know that, especially for a person who's done a lot of roller skating on four wheels, I'm finding that being on rollerblades is not intuitive. I'm really kind of struggling skating on rollerblades. So I'm not quite sure why that is. And, it may take me some time to get better. I've actually been rollerblading in a few places locally. For example, I've been to the Lompoc Skate Park that's adjacent to the Lompoc Aquatic Center, and I've rollerbladed there. I've also rollerbladed at the Santa Barbara Skate Park, which is, what is it, East Beach or West Beach? Yeah. And and thankfully I haven't had too many falls. In fact, I don't think I've fallen at all with my rollerblades. So that's actually kind of surprising, given how unstable I am on the rollerblades. But what that goes to show is that I just need practice. All right. Next question. Question number 153. Do you know how to ice skate? And yeah, I do. I've been ice skating before, and there is, in fact, an ice skating rink in Santa Barbara. Actually, it's in Goleta, and I've been to it a few times. I think I've even been to it. No, I don't think I've been to it with you. I would be open to going skating, ice skating. Now, I'm really not good. I've only been ice skating like 2 or 3 times, and so I don't have any facility with ice skates. I'm pretty unstable, and I'll probably fall a couple times. But yeah, I know how to do it. And I'm not very good. I'm like, not even beginner. I'm like initial beginner, right? A beginner. Next question. Question number 154. Do you get presents every Christmas? No, I don't. Now, and that's not to be sure, I sometimes buy myself presents. I just bought myself a present yesterday. So I get presents year round. But I don't always get Christmas presents. And you'll find that that's the case for many adults. Many adults don't get Christmas presents. It's mostly something for kids. Now, sometimes adults do get Christmas presents, but they're not that interesting. Quite often they're just socks or a tie or something like that. So mostly for kids. Question number 155. What has been your most valued present? Boy. I think I got my most valued present when I was a kid, getting a Super Nintendo video game system. Like when I got that video game system, I think I can remember feeling just head over heels happy with that present. So yeah. My goodness. So let's see. I'm just reminiscing about how much I enjoyed receiving that video game system, and how much I enjoyed playing it, because I played it all the freaking time, along with my brothers. So, do you get presents every Christmas? What has been your most valued present? My most valued present. I'm trying to think of presents that I've enjoyed in the past. I've really been. What I remember in my past is that people have been very good about getting me presents. Somehow they can read me and what I want. That's kind of interesting, don't you think? So, or maybe I'm just easy to satisfy. I think that is probably more the case. I'm just really easy to satisfy. I'm so touched when people are willing to take the time and energy to procure a Christmas present for me or any kind of present. It's like, wow, that's pretty amazing. I mean, half the joy is just in acknowledging the fact that they cared enough to give me a present. Okay, so question number 156. What has been your worst present? Oh, man. At work, sometimes we have these white elephant gift exchanges. And, I can't remember what they are, but I don't know. Sometimes they're like novelty gifts that have almost no real purpose. I don't know. I would guess that maybe one or two of those gifts would be the least valued for me. Question number 157. Do you play cards? And the answer is no. I don't. I've never really had a mind for playing cards. Now, I have played a number of card games like Fish, and I've played War, and I've played 21, which is blackjack. And I've played poker too before, just between friends. And what other games have I played? I've only played the most basic card games, even card games like Uno, things like that. And I really do have a hard time getting into those kind of games. Now, I've played other card games and have enjoyed them quite a bit, relating to like Pokemon. I've played Pokemon and have liked that game. That's a pretty neat game. I played it a few times. And I've actually got a couple decks of Pokemon cards. And I know how to play that game. And it's actually quite enjoyable. Oh, one thing interesting about that card game is that I've actually, the print of the type is so small on the Pokemon card game. I've got to wear glasses reading glasses when I play that game. Somehow, I don't know how they do it, but they fit all these words onto these cards about, instructions about how to play the card on the smallest type print that you can imagine. It's like 3 or 4 point type. So yeah, I played Pokemon, and I also have played Magic the Gathering. And they're both pretty good. Here's the thing about both. I remember sometimes it's hard to find other people to play Pokemon and Magic the Gathering with. Well, actually, it's not so hard to play Magic the Gathering because there are a lot of people that play Magic the Gathering. In fact, our local comic book store here in Lompoc, they have very regular Magic the Gathering tournaments. I played Magic the Gathering also in, I think in Santa Barbara. So I think Magic the Gathering is pretty easy to find pickup players, but Pokemon is harder. Our local comic book store doesn't hold Pokemon tournaments, and so I'll have to find someone to play Pokemon the card game with, right? Hey, if you are ever interested in that kind of card game, let me know. We could go hunt down some cards and make our decks and play a little while. I think that could be a lot of fun. So next question. 158. Could you build a house of cards? Of course. Who can't build a house of cards? Question number 159. Do you enjoy dominoes? Okay. Dominoes, I've played it a few times according to rules that I thought were the right rules. And let me tell you, I just can't get into it. Just can't get into dominoes. And I've tried. Just can't do it. Question number 160. Do you enjoy board games? Well, yeah, I sure do. I think I enjoy the simple board games the best, though. For example, games like Life, games like Chutes and Ladders and Candyland. These are board games that I can enjoy. I have played more complex board games, and I've played extremely complex board games. And I struggle. I struggle probably because, I tend to be over focused on rules quite often, and especially when I play those board games because it's almost a requirement to know the rules. And my focus on the rules and the logic of playing the game, well, it sort of overshadows the enjoyment and the fun that I'm having playing the game. I'm concerned about strategy and about playing the right card at the right time. And so, no, I don't care for complex board games very much. I like the enjoyment of a simple board game. But I do play board games, and I like to play board games. And one of my favorite board games is checkers. And in fact, I've played checkers with you many times. And there have been times when you've beat me playing checkers. Even when you were 6 years old, you would beat me playing checkers at times. So that's pretty cool. Next question. Number 161. What is your favorite board game? Checkers. Okay. Next question. Question number 162. Can you bake a cake? Oh, yeah, I sure can. In fact, now that winter is here, I've got this sense, probably greater than ever before, then maybe it would be a good idea to buy a cake and make it. That sounds like fun. Although I could tell you, maybe I just want to eat a cake. Yeah, I think maybe I just want to eat a cake. Okay, next slide. Or next question. So yes, I can make a cake. Who can't make a cake? Cakes these days are really easy to make. Those box cakes, you throw in some water, some milk, some eggs, and then stir it up, stick it in the oven, and it's done in 30 minutes, right? So next question. Question number 163. Have you been photographed professionally in the past? Oh yeah, I sure have. There used to be at the mall this store called Glamour Shots, where they would fix your hair just prior to the photograph, and maybe they'd put a costume on you, or they'd put some makeup on you, or do something, right? And then they would take photographs of you that were sort of glamour shots. I tell you, I enjoyed that experience. That was really fun. And I remember when your mom and I were getting married, we took we hired a photographer to take photographs of us, Sochi Rodrigue, who is still Facebook friends with me. And she still comes to Lompoc. I mean, this is like, maybe 15 years, maybe like 18 or 19 years after she took professional photographs with us. We're still friends, which is pretty amazing. So yeah, I've known professional photographers. I've definitely had my photograph taken by professional photographers. For example, certainly in my years while I was in school, like middle school and high school, definitely had photos taken of me. Which reminds me, I want to ask you about your class photos, and I would like to have a copy. Absolutely, that sounds like a lot of fun. So next slide, or next question. Question number 164, do you like fruits? And yes, I love fruits. Fruits are amazing. I had fruit this morning for breakfast. I had strawberries. And quite often I have strawberries and grapes and blueberries are very routine type fruits that I eat on a regular basis. And in fact, I've eaten in the past, there was a period of time when I've never really been a fruitarian where a person only eats fruit, but I've eaten large quantities of fruits on like raw vegan diets, things like that in the past. I don't do that anymore. Fruit for me is just a nice supplement to my diet. It probably only accounts for 10% of my calories or less. But I really enjoy fruit, and one of the fruits that I enjoy the most are apples. And I've really been missing apples lately because I haven't been able to eat them because I've got braces on. Now, I'm certain that I could eat apples if I just cut them into pieces or something before I ate them. And maybe I'll have to do that. But I really do enjoy fruit. I'm a big fan of bananas and apples and oranges in particular. I really love oranges. I love navel oranges and tangerines. And I love orange juice. I love all the juices that come from fruits. I like grapefruit juice. Sure, I do love grapefruit juice. I love grapes. White grapes, purple grapes. I'll tell you. And I like tomatoes too. Tomatoes are a fruit. And I like tomato juice, V8, things like that. So yeah, I love fruits. Fruits are amazing. Yeah, and sweet fruits, yeah. I'll tell you what, I've been debating recently getting some peaches or nectarines. These stone fruits are in the grocery stores right now. The thing is, though, I've had so many poor experiences with stone fruits that I basically almost don't buy them anymore. I almost prefer to buy the canned stone fruits because at least I know that they will be somewhat ripe. So, ripeness is really critical when it comes to stone fruits like peaches and nectarines. And whether a peach or nectarine is ripe or not, it'll affect your whole experience of the fruit. And so anyway, yeah, I love fruit. And also what I've been trying out lately is melons, particularly cantaloupes. Very enjoyable foods to eat. I also like papaya and mango and those tropical fruits. I like kiwi. And all this is getting me to think more about fruits and how I probably want to eat more fruits. I already eat quite a bit. Even just 10% of one's calories being derived from fruit means that that's actually quite a lot of fruit. Because fruit don't have that many calories to begin with. All right, question number 165. Do you like veggies? Totally. I love veggies. I love salads, and I've been enjoying zucchini squash lately. And of course, eggplant, which is actually a fruit, but I'm putting in the vegetable category. I love potatoes. I think that vegetables are amazing. And in fact, I had rutabaga French fries the other day. I love sweet potatoes. And yeah, vegetables are amazing. So yes, that is a firm yes. I love veggies. Question number 166. What are your favorite fruits and veggies? Well, I kind of mentioned them. Right now, when it comes to fruits, I think my favorite is strawberries. Hands down, strawberries are my favorite fruits right now. What is my favorite vegetable right now? Good question. I think it is the regular russet potato. Russet potatoes. I'm loving those warm French fries that I'm preparing. Roasting those potatoes, with a little ketchup or a little salsa or mustard. In fact, now I've been preferring mustard on my French fries instead of ketchup, which is like, wow, surprising. So my favorite pair of fruit and veggies right now are strawberries and russet potatoes. Okay, next question. Are you a good impersonator? No, I'm not very good. And I think a big part of the reason for that is that I just don't practice a lot. I just don't do a lot of impersonation. And that's probably kept me out of a lot of trouble. I have a feeling that if I did impersonation all the time, that I don't know. I have seen impersonators, and they are so much a pleasure to watch. They're so enjoyable to watch. That would be a skill that I think would be worthwhile to develop. Next question, question number 168. Who do you enjoy impersonating? That's a good question. If I were to impersonate someone, who would it be? Well, you know, what is the name of that movie star that gets impersonated a lot? There's a lot of them, of course. That Captain Kirk guy on the old version of Star Trek. I know a lot of people impersonate him because he's got some behavioral quirks related to his speech. Probably just people like that. Really standard impersonating people. Standard people who are often impersonated. Question number 168, or question number 169. Are you a fan of accents? Yeah. I do have favorite accents. For me, my favorite accents are British accents and Australian accents. Wow. Those blow me away. And I could enjoy a good French accent. But really my favorites are English and Australian accents. Why is that? I'm not sure. I think those accents make people sound intelligent. And they also, in my opinion, make people sound friendly. So, and in fact, I find those accents attractive, which is kind of interesting. That is, I'll be drawn to people who have those accents. So, that's interesting, isn't it? So, question number 170. Can you imitate accents? No. I'm just not very good at it. Again, for the same reason, I just don't have a lot of practice. Well, anyway, those are some pretty interesting questions, and I want to thank you for spending some time with me and letting me rattle on about what's up for me in my mind and in my life right now. I hope you enjoyed exploring a little bit about my interests relating to board games and card games, and also things related to fruits and vegetables and cooking and where I'm at right now. And I was happy to relate to you my story of buying the Keurig coffee maker. And I hope you have a fantastic day today and week. I'm going to have a really exciting the next 2 days. I'm going to be in Los Angeles at a music concert, and then I'm going to probably be back the next morning and probably do some Halloween stuff. I haven't quite pinned down what I'm doing for Halloween this year. I usually do like a zombie walk or something like that, but there are no zombie walks scheduled in my local area. Not one in Lompoc, not one in Santa Maria or Solvang, so I'm going to have to figure out something to do. Anyway, maybe in fact, I think I probably will end up texting you about my costume. I got it finished the other day. Oh, there's one thing I've yet to do, and that's affix a strap to my cape. But once I get it done, I'll probably send you a photograph and let you know what I look like this Halloween. And I hope you do the same. That is, send me a photograph of what you look like this Halloween. Okay, girl. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful evening, a safe and happy Halloween. And I wish you peace and love and kindness, and really it's just an outpouring of emotional positive expression.